Hi, everyone. This is Angela Copeland with the Copeland Coaching Podcast, and I'm back with another bonus episode. Darnell Reid recently interviewed me for his podcast. It's called the Memphis Success Podcast, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs. Darnell asked me all about Copeland Coaching and what it's like to be a career coach, and I wanted to share the episode with you. Whether you're in Memphis or somewhere else, I really hope you'll enjoy this episode.
Memphis Success, Episode 9 with Angela Copeland.
All of the little details that you have to learn to be able to put the big picture together.
Want to be successful in business? Listen to Memphis Success, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs. Be prepared to be challenged and inspired to dream big and take immediate action now.
This episode is sponsored by One Call Telecom, a leading provider of business telephone and camera systems right here in the Mid-South. And as my business grew, we started to miss several phone calls from potential clients with our basic phone line service. But I had a friend refer me to One Call Telecom. They installed a complete phone system in my office, and now we don't miss any potential client call. If you're having problems, call them now at 901-729-3333 and mention Memphis Success. Now let's get to the show. Memphis Go-Getters, welcome to Memphis Success, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Darnell Reid, and I interview local entrepreneurs right here in the Mid-South to inspire and challenge you to chase your dreams. And today on the show, I have Miss Angela Copeland on our show. And Angela has coached job seekers for over 10 years. She is the host of Copeland Coaching Podcast. She's a columnist for the Career Corner newspaper, as well as the author of career ebook, Breaking the Rules and Getting the Job. Angela's area of expertise includes resume and cover letter development, personal branding, networking, and so much more. Now, guys, you may have heard of Angela or may have seen her on a lot of well-famous publications such as the Huffington Post, U.S. News, as well as the Wall Street Journal, the Memphis Business Journal, the Commercial Appeal, and so much more. And now you can say that she is on Memphis Success. Angela, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Darnell, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited that you're on here. I know there's tons of information that you can share with our Memphis Go-Getters. And as we talked about earlier, you're from Oklahoma, but you've been in Memphis for a while now. So when you think about Memphis and entrepreneurship, what comes to your mind?
Well, when I think of Memphis, there are really two things that come to mind. I mentioned to you, I've lived in Memphis twice. I came back on purpose. And the biggest reason I came back was the people. So that's the first thing I think of when I think of Memphis, are the great people who live here. The second thing is I think about how unique Memphis is. I love the fact that we have so many local stores and local small businesses where you get a chance to really know the owner, where you spend your money.
Right. Yeah, I like that, just that hometown feel, that local feel, getting to know just everybody here. So with that being said, I know I gave a brief introduction of you, but when you meet somebody at a networking event, how do you normally tell them what you do?
Sure. I introduce myself as a career coach, and I say that I help people find jobs. So I typically work with folks who are employed today and they are high performers that want to change careers completely. So I help them to really rebrand themselves so they can go out and kind of find their dream job, so to speak.
Okay. Wow. So, we briefly talked before we got into the interview. So I just like to kind of go back to the beginning and just hear, if you can, just take us back when you really decided to take that leap of faith to become an entrepreneur, and what was really going on in your life at that time.
Sure. It's a great question. So I have actually been an entrepreneur a few times.
Okay.
This isn't my first business, as I think is true for many entrepreneurs.
Right.
And I went to graduate school in Los Angeles. I got my MBA from a school called Pepperdine that's out in Malibu. And I actually entered the program as a 20-month student, expecting to complete the program in 20 months. And I completed it in 15 months.
Okay, wow.
Before I entered the program, I worked at FedEx here in Memphis. Mm-hmm. I was a project manager. And coming out of the program, I got some really awesome job offers. I loved interviewing and I was able to get some really good ones. One in particular was to be a project manager. It paid twice as much money. And I thought, you know what? I did not go to graduate school to take the same exact job back that I had before, even if it pays twice as much money. And so I had this moment of clarity for myself where I said, you know, if I can finish school in 20 months or in 15 months, a 20-month program, I think I get at least a few extra months to kind of figure out what is it that I would do if I didn't have to go to work. Wow. What would I want to do? And I started working for myself in the digital marketing space. I was an affiliate marketer. I sold a lot of shoes for this website called Zappos.com. And
wow.
That is the first time I was self-employed.
Wow. So if you can, just explain to our audience what affiliate marketing is.
Sure. So an affiliate marketer is someone who, say, researches products. In my case, like I said, it was shoes, sometimes like the Converse tennis shoes, for example. And I would build websites and blogs where I would talk about those products, or I would build a storefront around those products. And then I would turn around and I would market them. And whether it was paid advertising on Google or search engine optimization or any other tactic, I was using various digital marketing tactics to drive traffic to my website, to make customers aware of different kinds of products like these shoes. And when they would actually go to buy them, Zappos.com would do the fulfillment. Right. So I would never actually see the shoes, but, back then the commission for, selling shoes for Zappos was in the ballpark of about 20%.
Wow.
They relied pretty heavily on affiliates back then. I think today the commission's probably much less, but it's a really fun, area to sort of work in. You get to learn about a lot of different products. It's very self-driven.
Right. Well, that's amazing. I guess, how did you even come up with the idea to become an affiliate for Zappos?
You know, it's a bit of a long story, but my undergraduate degree is computer and systems engineering. Okay. So initially coming out of college, what I knew how to do was how to build websites. I also always kind of had a knack for how to market things and how things should look. And really affiliate marketing, very much in digital marketing in general, it tied together a lot of different areas of expertise for me. Okay. And it just kind of put them together in one box.
Well, awesome. So tell us more about how were you able to now shift into the coaching arena?
Sure. So I also started career coaching while I was in graduate school. And really the way the whole thing started, I guess you could say, was coming out of college. I graduated right after the .com bust with the kind of degree that would have allowed me to work at a startup making a website. And so I really had to be resourceful coming out of school. You know, recruiters were canceling their visits to the school, and I went to a well-known school that really wasn't, you didn't expect that to happen. And I had to get really creative, and I loved interviewing, which I think is kind of unusual.
You love interviewing.
I loved it. And when I was in grad school, I continued sort of my trend. I was interviewing for sales, marketing, operations, engineering, programming, project management, all sorts of jobs at different kinds of companies. And I really enjoyed it, and I would get very far along in the interviews. I would meet a lot of new people, learn about all these industries. I think the thing that really happened, though, that sort of set the whole thing in motion was I really wanted to work at the Gap.
The Gap.
The Gap.
Okay.
And they are headquartered in San Francisco. So I wanted to work there. But the problem was the Gap, their recruiters didn't come to Pepperdine, it turns out, all the way to Malibu. Where they did go, though, was they went to UCLA. Just closer to the airport. They have a bigger program. So I may have posed as a UCLA student.
You may. Hey.
In order to get an interview at the Gap. And the Gap was very impressed with my tenacity and invited me to come up and take a tour, meet executives, and, you know, spend a day with them there. And the career department at Pepperdine heard about it, about my little project. Right. And rather than be upset with me, the career department and the other professors started saying, hey, will you come in and give lectures to our classes on what it is you're doing? And will you work with people one-on-one and teach them how to find a job?
Wow. Well, hey, that's pretty creative. I know they were like, wow, we gotta see what she's doing to get these type of opportunities.
Yeah. And I love the process. So, what I do now, it's amazing because I get to help people on these little projects every day.
And that's a great and amazing story to share right there. But let me ask you this question. A lot of times as we get started, I know you mentioned this is your second time around, as an entrepreneur. A lot of times as business owners, when we get started, we're faced with a lot of challenges. So if you can, just tell me a story of just one of your biggest challenges or disappointments as an entrepreneur, and how were you able to overcome and just bounce back from it?
Sure. I think of this a lot in terms of many types of entrepreneurs, whether you're a dentist or a doctor or any other kind of person who's self-employed. Often you start the business because there's one thing that you're really good at. Like in my case, I like career coaching, right? That's my passion. But you don't always think about the fact that there's a lot of other things you have to do, like taxes or setting up a website, or there's a lot of other parts to a business that aren't your strength, that you still have to do because you're the business owner and you have to kind of do everything. So I would say, with me, a lot of my business is online in terms of, that I have a podcast, I do videos, I have a newsletter. So I would say one of the biggest challenges for me is the ongoing learning that's really required to make these things happen. So I know, like, when I started my podcast, I was trying to learn how to do editing and how to do recording and how to make my office have, like, be soundproof. I have these sound panels on the walls and things.
Oh, I do see them.
Right.
And guys, we're right here, in her office. Is a lovely office that she has set up here.
Oh, thank you. But I think for me, probably the biggest challenge is just all of the little details that you have to learn to be able to put the big picture together.
Okay. And so what have you done to I feel like I'm a career interview now.
Right. Yeah, go for it.
So what have you done to try to overcome some of those challenges to help our Memphis go-getters who may be facing those same things?
Right. So with my podcast, for example, I spent a lot of time trying to learn this audio software, which I'm sure you've spent some time with too.
Audacity?
I think that was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a few I looked at, and I spent time at Guitar Center trying to get the right microphones and learn about all that.
That's where this came from.
Right. And, spend some time trying to understand how to write questions and how to do research and how to, there's all these pieces, as you know, that go into hosting a podcast. And for me, I finally decided to ask for help, which is what I've done in a number of areas within my business. And I reached out to a local studio called Music and Arts, and it's a studio that normally records music, and they also do video or movie editing, I should say. I reached out to them, and they actually I do my podcast at their studio. Okay. And so I have a professional sound engineer, Darnell Reid, and he helps to record all of the podcasts. He does all the editing. He gets everything ready. So of course I still do the research. I'm still doing the interview. It's, I'm the meat of it, but those really technical pieces that had to do with the audio, he helps me. And not only does it save me time, but I probably get a much higher quality production than I would ever do on my own.
Right.
So that's for me. I've done that in a number of areas where I have found someone where that is their specialty and I get them to help me.
Right. Well, awesome. Memphis Go-Getters, one of my takeaways from that point right there is, find someone who may be the expert in what you need help with, and either try to delegate or outsource those areas that you really need help with. Like she said, it saves her time and probably tons of money and makes her quality of work so much better. So that is awesome. And thank you for that tip right there. And now in this question, I call this kind of that big shift moment in our business. So if you can take us to that moment in time when you experience something or learn something new that just really helps shift your business to the next level?
It's a great question. And for me, this moment probably came in the form of a conversation that I had with someone that was a really important conversation. And I was talking with a good friend a few years ago when I started this business. And I explained to the friend what I was doing, that I was going to be, career coaching, and I had already started. I was seeing some success with clients. It was going really well. And the friend said, their first question was, why don't you write an ebook? And I went, write an ebook? I've never written anything. Mm-hmm. What do you mean I'm supposed to write an ebook? And the friend said, gosh, you're such an amazing digital marketer. If you could look at ways to create online content around your ideas with career coaching. And this friend knew me when I was in grad school, and he said, your job search techniques are unlike anything I've seen from anybody. Mm-hmm. He said, you really have a story to tell, and I think you should consider writing an ebook. And I was very, very hesitant to do this. Mm-hmm. And I sat down one day, I thought, okay, maybe I could open up Microsoft Word and just type a few things, just see. And literally 2 weeks later, I had written 100 pages.
Wow. Just started to flow, huh?
Right. I really, at every single chapter was a lesson, that something I truly believe about job searching and that I've kind of developed over the years. And at the end of each chapter, I tell a story about an adventure that I took job searching. So I've had a lot of these little adventures. So it was really a very defining moment for me, because I took it from a career coaching business to really not only career coaching, but also online content that could be accessed from anywhere.
Right. Well, now that's amazing there. I think, definitely now, is the time where you can take a lot of the information that and package that into a product, into an ebook and so forth, and have that as a product that you can sell, as well as a product to allow people just to be introduced to you and to your services. So that is definitely amazing to hear that and have that implement into your business. So with that being said, this is kind of what is going on in your business type of question. So today, I know you have a lot going on, but what is that one thing that you're just most excited about in your business?
Also a really good question. So I have been probably for close to a year wanting to add video content. And it has been another learning process. And you can see in my office that I have lights and a camera set up and everything. Right. So I just last week released my second video tip. Okay. And I'm set to release them once a week, every Wednesday, both on my website and on YouTube, where I do a 1-minute tip about job searching or some sort of job related, skill. And I'm very excited about those. I mean, it's taken a ton of time to, get the lights, get the setup going, get the camera and the mic, learn how to edit the thing. But it's really great, and I've had really great reception so far.
So actually, I'm thinking about doing the same thing. So it's amazing. I'm definitely going to be following you and just seeing how it works, so I can step out there eventually and do my own video. So a lot of times, I've been in business school, and they always talk about think long term. So for you, if you can, what is your long-term vision for your business?
Sure. The long-term vision really is, first of all, to continue to coach job seekers, both in Memphis and outside of Memphis, in other states and even in other countries. So to be able to continue to expand my client base. Fortunately, I have contacts in a lot of places because I've lived in so many places. So I've been able to really work effectively with clients all over. So I want to continue to grow that part of my business. I also want to really add more and more in-depth online content that people can access from anywhere. So online classes, for example, that are around, career development and interviewing and those types of things. I really would like to see myself add more and more content in that space.
That sounds amazing right there, and I definitely know you're going to do it. Now, I'd like to call this our lightning round of questions, so you can answer these questions briefly or as long as you would like. So let's jump right into it. Now, was there anything holding you back from becoming an entrepreneur?
Definitely. I think the thing that held me back probably holds a lot of people back. I had a lot of worries around money. I had always worked in a very corporate environment for most of my career. And I know the first time that I was an entrepreneur, I left my business sooner than I, would have today, obviously. And the biggest reason was it was really stressful, living sort of on your own and depending totally on yourself.
Right.
So I would say this time around, I was much more financially and emotionally prepared to kind of deal with the type of stress that, being 100% self-employed brings along. And, I think it's a thing to really consider. And I've had another entrepreneur who I truly admire. Her name is Brooks Bell, suggested to me one thing that she tells everyone is start your business at as young of an age as you possibly can, when your expenses are still low and your, obligations are also low.
Right.
So that's what I would tell anyone who wants to, also start their own business.
Well, that's definitely some awesome advice right there. Now, another word from our sponsor. If you're missing phone calls, you truly need a phone system. I recommend you calling One Call Telecom. Their number is 901-729-3333. Now back to the show. So talking about advice, what has been your best advice that you've received thus far? Hopefully that wasn't it.
No, actually, no. So it's so funny. 1 year ago, I got some really awesome advice and I saw the person who gave it to me this weekend and I reminded him of our conversation. I don't even think he remembered, but it was very impactful to me. And he pulled me aside. He's someone who also works for a large company here in Memphis called FedEx. Okay. And he said to me, Angela, I want to tell you, you're living the dream that we're all thinking about. He said, I feel so jealous and I really support what you're doing. I think it's really amazing. And he said, what I think you should always remember, because I know times are going to be tough sometimes. And he said, what I think you should remember is even if you lost half your clients one day, if something happened, you lost half your clients, you'd still have half your revenue. And he said, but at this corporate job I have, if I lose it, that's it. I lose 100% of my revenue. Wow. And he said, you're going to get the 50% back if it ever goes down. But if I lose my job, it's going to take me a long time to figure that out. Yes. And there's sometimes days where you're thinking, man, that corporate job sounds good. And then I remember that conversation and I remember his philosophy and I think, wow, that's so true. And a few weeks later, sure enough, I will more than make up the difference if there's ever a dip in revenue. And so that advice really stuck with me.
Yeah, I've always heard, and you've been reminiscing on B school conversation where they always say you don't want to have one customer represent a large portion of your revenue.
That's right.
So I guess that's the same analogy that he's sharing right there. So there's definitely some great tips and advice for all of us just to heed and to keep in mind. So with that being said, what do you read, watch, or listen to that keeps you inspired and motivated?
So it's a good question. I may not answer it in exactly the way you're expecting.
Okay.
But honestly, what really inspires me often is my clients, because I will be working with someone. Like I have an amazing client who I interviewed for one of my podcasts named Isaac Lake, and Isaac actually was able to transition from a job where he worked in administration at the University of Memphis, and he has transitioned into I'd say almost kind of a corporate strategy role over at Hilton.
Oh, wow.
And it has just been like life changing for him. And to watch him blossom and see all the good things that are happening. When I have a client who comes in and they've just scored their perfect job, or they've just made like a major change, or they've overcome some fear, that's what makes me want to come back the next day and work with more people.
Now, is there a certain online website or application or a tool that helps you become more productive that you may use?
So I use a lot of websites, a lot of applications, because I do have a technology background, but I'll tell you the thing that I find that makes me the most productive and that keeps me all together and on time every day is I actually have a paper calendar.
A paper calendar. Do you have the big calendar on your desk?
No, you flip through it. It's kind of, like a spiral bound
book.
And it's the kind that has a month first, and then you flip through and it has week by week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I very closely keep track of every appointment. I can make notes about what's going on, what I need to do that day, and I can see everything laid out together.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I am a computer person, the thing that keeps me the most productive is the old-fashioned paper calendar.
Hey, if it works, don't break it. I still today, I just have my notebook and I just in the morning time write a list out of all the things I want to accomplish. So, I know of Evernote and all these other applications out there, but hey, if it works for you, continue to do it.
Yeah, I do that too. Every day I write up a list. Even though it's in the calendar, there's something about putting it in your mind that way and getting refocused on it. I think it makes you productive.
Yep. So with that being said, is there a book you would recommend to our Memphis Go-Getters?
Yeah. one of my favorite authors is Malcolm Gladwell. Mm-hmm. And I really like his book Outliers, where he talks about, some of the reasons things happen and, how, some big name successful people, maybe it's not quite the overnight success that we all picture from the outside.
Right.
I really love that book.
Well, that's awesome. Memphis Go-Getters. If you go to memphissuccess.com and look for Angela Copeland, we will have that book there, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, where you can look at that book if you're interested in that book, as well as tons of notes from this show right here. Now, also, another question, what has been your favorite success quote that you may live by? So my favorite success quote is on the wall here in my office, as you can see. And it's a Wayne Gretzky quote. He says, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I think this is really true when it comes to job searching. A lot of candidates don't apply for jobs because they don't think that they are fully qualified. Mm. And I would really encourage them to do it anyway. Right. Awesome. Awesome. I love that quote. So with this one, I call this one of my tougher questions. Now, just if you could go back in time and you were starting over as an entrepreneur, and if you had $100, and this $100 really represents just time, but you had $100 to spend to be a successful entrepreneur, how would you invest this money/time? Now, there's 4 areas that you can invest in. 1 is into leadership. 2 is hustle. 3 is education. And 4 is networking. How would you invest that money? It's a good question. So if it were just money, I'd probably put almost all of it into the networking bucket. Okay. Networking and knowing the right people and getting those people to believe in you and me has been what's really allowed me to move my career into so many places. Okay. In my very first job, I worked for General Motors on the Chevy Malibu. And, this is not where you would expect me to be with that beginning. And so, the networking has been what's really allowed me to shift around. I will say if we're talking about time as well, I think hustle is also important. Hustle is very important in the business. But I think leadership and education are things that you sort of have at this point, or maybe you have or you don't, and you just need to go with it. Okay. Well, awesome. And I always like to ask this question. Now, Angela, if you could go back in time and you could talk to yourself, what one thing you wish you would have known before you became an entrepreneur that you would go back and tell yourself now, hey, you need to consider this? Well, I'd say in life, the one thing I would go back and tell myself is to focus on my strengths and to really focus on what I'm good at. When I was in college and was studying computer engineering, I was often the person that organized the projects and made things look good and helped us to really shine. And I always assumed I was doing that because I was actually the worst computer programmer in the group. Not that I couldn't program, but if I was in a group, I was the weakest. And so that was the other area that I would focus on. And during our senior year, we had to write a paper about someone who had made a difference in our lives in general. And someone from one of my groups actually wrote his paper about me and how my leadership and being able to really brand our projects brought the whole team together and made our computer programming projects the best. Wow.
And I suddenly realized that maybe I was good at it.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't just because I was the worst programmer in the room. And so I think there's a lot to be said for focusing on your strengths and what you're good at rather than focusing on your weaknesses.
Well, awesome. So with that being said, one of my last questions that I like to always ask is, what does Memphis Success mean to you?
So to me and to my business, Copeland Coaching, Memphis Success is helping people in Memphis to find better jobs so they can give back and help create more jobs to get more successful people to move here to Memphis.
Well, that's awesome. Memphis Go-Getters, this has been an amazing interview with Angela. Now, Angela, if you can, tell us how we can find out more about you and your company.
Absolutely. Well, if you go to www.copelandcoaching.com, you can find me and my career blog where I share jobs every day. I'm also on social media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and on iTunes where my podcast is, and just search for Copeland Coaching.
Well, awesome. This has been an amazing interview with you. You dropped tons of nuggets and knowledge. I'm thankful for you for being on the show. Memphis Go-Getters, go to memphissuccess.com. I will have all of Angela's information, all of her contact information. Look for the show notes page under Angela Copeland, and we will have all of the information there. Also, guys, remember, sign up, become a Memphis Go-Getter, get all the latest interviews, all of the free stuff that we will be sending out to you. And as always, Memphis Go-Getters, remember, dream big, take action, and make money.
Thank you for listening to Memphis Success, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs. Sign up now at memphissuccess.com to become a Memphis Go-Getter and receive all the latest information and free gifts. Because your success is Memphis Success.